was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. He was in the beginning with God. All things were made through him, and without him was not anything that was made. In him was life, and that life was the light of men. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it. He then drops down to verse 14. And the Word became flesh and dwelt among us, and we have seen his glory, glory as of the only Son from the Father, full of grace and truth. The Greek word that we translate as in dwelt among us is a fun little Greek word. The very basic of it means encampment. That what John is saying is that this God who is transcendent, big fancy word, it means you can't measure him. You can't put a box on him. You can't weigh him. You can't see him. You can't contain him. He is everywhere and nowhere. He is just God. That this God that is so transcendent and so powerful that he created all things by the power of his word. And our reading from Hebrews says not only did he create it by the power of his word, he continues to uphold everything in the universe and in his creation by the power of his word. The laws of nature, in other words, work because God makes it work through Christ and his power. So he created it, and there's nothing that he didn't make, and his word is still holding it up and holding it together. That this transcendent word that was with God in the beginning, that is God, became flesh, took on actual humanity in a way that he could be measured, he could be weighed, he could be seen. And as we see him going through his life, he weeps, he hungers, he thirsts, he's angry righteously, unlike so much of ours. He's very, very human because he's very, very human. This God became flesh and then encamped among us. The Word of God, the second person of the Holy Trinity, literally pitched his tent in the midst of us. Not out there like some of them were talking where the wolves are, in the silence and under the stars. He encamped right into the mess of humanity. He didn't seek out the peaceful place or a peaceful time. He chose to live among you and I, and to do it in a way that was completely human. And just like you and I have good experiences and bad experiences when we camp, Jesus had all kinds of very good experiences. He had people following him. He had Peter confessing him. He had children who sang. He comes into Jerusalem to crowds following him and crowds coming out of Jerusalem to meet him and bring him in. He got to receive the praise and the worship of a leper, a Samaritan, who had been healed by the power of his word. By his power, he had raised the dead and given back a son, an only son, to his mother, a widow. Over and over again, in this camping trip that Jesus was on, there was a lot of joy. There was a lot of good things. There was a lot of things that he could write home about. Dear Father, guess what we did today? And it was fun. But he also had the other stories. He had the sprinklers in the middle of the night kind of stories. He had the fence pole not quite being there kind of stuff. He had crowds massing to him by the power of his preaching and the wonders of his miracles, and then slowly disappear as they began to really listen to what he was saying. Because what he was saying was not some hokey-pokey bestseller kind of theology. It was not a name it and claim it where if you have enough faith, you can do it, you can grab it, and it'll be yours. He wasn't saying, oh, all you got to do is pray and pray right, pray in the Spirit, and God will show the path he wants you to go on. He was telling them, I will be betrayed. I will be handed over to the rulers of our people, who will hand me over to the Gentiles, who will put me to death. I will be mocked and beaten and crucified. And if you'll follow me, if you really want to follow me, get in line. Because the same thing's going to happen to you. You must take up your cross and follow me. And by the way, I don't care how good you've been. I am the way and the truth and the life, and nobody comes to the Father except through me. Period. The crowds began to leave him. Didn't have to worry about feeding 5,000 because they weren't there. And by the time he was crucified, the 12 had been winnowed down to 11 because one had betrayed him. And as he's arrested, the others flee, except Peter, who follows him. And Peter gets his chance, and he denies him 3 times. This camping is not good. It's rough. It hurts. And there's a lot of sorrow. But see, that's the beauty of what God did. What we see at Christmas into Easter is the heart of God revealed in a way that boggles the mind. We see a God who's so contrary to what we think a God should be. God should be cranky. He should be like me. As I get older, I get crotchety. And you know, when I was younger and I started to get crotchety, I was kind of ashamed of it. I'm not ashamed of it now. Yesterday, had I been God, there would have been 2 fewer drivers in the city of Hermiston. I'm just saying, I don't know what I would have done with them. Maybe I would have parked them someplace for a while and then brought them, but they wouldn't have been here. That's what we want our God to be like. Not for us. No, not for us. No. Because when we're crotchety, it's a righteous crotchetiness, right? So we want God to overlook that stuff. But as he looks at these other fools and these other idiots that we live among, that we're camping in, these are the people who camp next to us. It's like, you are got to be kidding me. We want that crotchety God. And we want him to kind of not be paying attention when it comes to us, except for when we hurt, when we want, when we need, then we want him to listen right away. Christmas to Easter, the heart of God is shown in a way that boggles the mind. We see a God who will do things in a totally different way. We see a God, and we encounter a God who deals with our pain, not necessarily by taking it away, by giving us peace in the midst of it, and hope and strength, and giving us a glimpse of what's at the finish line of our life. Just a reminder that this ill right here, maybe even this terminal illness, that's not the end. He shows us from Christmas to Easter that he's a gentle God. That he's a God that's willing to not only make his encampment among us, not just for a short time. The beauty of that Greek word is it not only means to encamp, it means to dwell. And so what we have in Jesus, this God born at Christmas, is not a God who comes here temporarily. We don't have one who flies in, does the camping trip, goes back to the Father and says, "Oh, you can't believe what I endured," and is no longer with us. We have Emmanuel. We have God with us. We have God, Jesus Christ, still dwelling among his people. Can't see him. Can't feel him. Sometimes, quite honestly, in my crotchetiness and in my lack of faith, I sometimes really wonder, is he here? But he's pitched his tent. He's moved in. He's living in your house. He's living with you. So what is it that you've experienced this year that you would write home to your Father about, that you would consider a joy? And what is it that you'd write back and say, this really stunk? What's coming in 2020? I don't know. I don't know. I pray for all my friends, my family, my congregation, that 2020 will be a year of all joy. No burnt marshmallows in this camping. No smoke. No wet wood. But I doubt it's going to work that way. In 30 years of being a pastor, I've yet to experience one of those. But that's all right. For in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. He was with God in the beginning, and the Word became flesh and dwelt among us, and we have seen his glory. Glory as the only Son of the Father, full of grace. Watch Jesus as he encamps. Watch what he does. Listen to what he says. Watch him die and then be here Easter Sunday as we celebrate him coming back to life. As John would say, I saw it with my own eyes. The glory of the Lord. In the transfiguration, I saw him raised. And I believe he still encamps among his people, even when I can't see it, because he said it, and he promised it. It may be a really, really cruddy life. Your camping trip may go downhill really, really quickly. But I believe in this Word made flesh. And I believe him when he says, never will I leave you. Never will I forsake you. He remains encamped among his people until he returns in glory. This is why Christmas is awesome. And this is why Christmas matters. Merry Christmas.